Panasonic have sent us this new lens. It's the 25 to 50mm f1.7 lens for G series cameras. They sent me a G9 to try it out with, so that's what I've been using with it. We're gonna talk about it. I've taken it out, obviously for video, for photo, for a bunch of stuff. But let's talk about the first thing that I thought of when I took this lens out of the box, which is actually the size of it and the weight, because obviously I know how heavy it is. I'm holding it in my hand, but all you can see is the size. And the first thing I thought obviously was, this is a little bit bigger than I was expecting, to be honest. But actually, having used it, I think it's about the right size. And I want to talk about that first of all, because I think it's an important thing to talk about. Now, weight-wise, this is surprisingly light, actually. This is much, much lighter than I thought it was going to be, bear in mind the size, and it fits so nicely on the front of the G9. The balance is pretty much spot on, so that it's not front heavy, it's not back heavy. That kind of center of gravity is right in the middle there between the lens and the camera, which makes it perfect for popping on a gimbal or a Steadicam or anything like that. It makes it really easy to balance. So if you're doing video, this is fantastic. The other part of this, which I just want to mention with regards to the size, is an internal zoom. So it doesn't extend as it zooms out. But also, there are 3 actual rings on here as well. You've got an aperture ring at the kind of front end of the lens, and then you've got the manual focus ring and then the zoom ring as well. So if this was much smaller than it is here, it would be difficult in terms of real estate on the lens to actually have all of those rings on there. And I think I would miss the aperture ring if it wasn't on there. The manual focus ring is really nice, it's not too huge, and the zoom ring also is not too huge. But we'll get back to talking about the actual construction of the lens in a bit. Let's talk about image quality first of all. So of course, 25 to 50mm on a micro four thirds system like this is gonna be 50 to 100mm as a 35mm equivalent. And that's actually a really versatile focal range to be using, whether you are using it for video, which I appreciate this is probably going to be used for a lot, which is why this aperture ring has no click. There's not even a click or a declick function on here. It's just no click at all. So I think this is probably going to be used for video quite a lot, but also for photo, that's a very versatile range. You've got a lot of portrait options in there, especially with f1.7 as the kind of maximum aperture. You've got a lot of landscape options, street even. There's a lot that you could do with this. And that maximum aperture, f1.7, that lets a lot of light in here as well. So this is going to be great for low light shooting, after it's gotten dark already, when you don't have the best light available. That's going to let a lot of light in, and you're going to be able to get some nice bokeh in your shots as well, some lovely out of focus areas. Now I've been testing that out a little bit with kind of portraiture, a bit of video with that as well. The bokeh looks good. It's nice and smooth. It's good looking bokeh, to be honest, which is nice, which is a good thing with a lens like this. You can get a very cinematic look to video while using this, and because of that zoom range, you can kind of use the compression of zooming in a bit to kind of enhance that out of focus area. I think that looks really good, especially like I say, if you're going for cinematic video style. Now you've got 9 diaphragm blades, so that's helping with that bokeh, and then 16 elements in 11 groups within the lens, including an spherical lens as well. And actually the image quality, like I say, nice and sharp. So you get nice sharp images, whether you're doing photo or video, it looks really good, which is important. And that's in the center and out to the edges, even wide open at f1.7 actually, which is really nice. It's nice to be able to rely on that as well. Now, in terms of autofocus, again, I didn't have any problems with this at all. I appreciate a lot of people are probably gonna want to use manual focus. I just know a lot of people who use these kind of cameras, these Panasonic G series cameras, and they love a bit of manual focus, which is totally fair enough. I like a bit of autofocus myself, and I had no issue with it with this lens. Is it the best in the entire world on those cameras? No, it's not, but the lens certainly didn't slow things down, and it was absolutely fine. If you do want to switch to manual focus, there's no MF switch on the lens, or is there? Because actually, and I really like this, and maybe I don't use these lenses enough, but you just pop the old manual focus ring down to reveal the actual focus distances as well. That pops into manual focus, and then you can turn that and you can actually see the focus distances on the lens. Now that's gonna help with focus pulling and all that kind of stuff, especially if you're trying to keep things in focus for video and you're trying to move that, and keep it in frame and focused and all that kind of stuff while things are moving. I like the touch, I like the design of this. Of course, this is one of the Leica DG Vario Summilux lenses, and it certainly looks that way. I think these are good looking lenses. I like the design of it. I feel like the look of it is nice, and it's not too busy on the lens. Like I said earlier, there's 3 different rings on here. Aperture ring, which I really like, and like I mentioned, it's not clicked and there's no option to click it, which I think is probably aimed more at video users, even though realistically, I wouldn't be changing aperture while shooting video, but you know, it's not gonna click if you do. And then of course you've got the manual focus ring, which clicks up and down, and the zoom ring. And other than that, there's nothing else on it in terms of buttons, switches, anything like that, which I think is a good idea because that's already 3 rings to keep track of. And you know, you don't want to clutter this up. You'd also probably have to make this either a little bit bigger in terms of the length in order to incorporate switches and buttons and that sort of stuff, or you would have to actually reduce the size of the rings. And I think they're probably about as small as they could be. You know, they're not too small. I didn't have any issues when I was going to, you know, zoom or then go for the manual focus. I didn't get them mixed up. You know, there's enough space between them. But they're not too big either. They're definitely probably on that line where if they went any smaller, it might be a bit of an issue. You know, you don't want the aperture ring to be any different size to this. This is perfect. But in terms of the manual focus ring and the zoom ring, they're probably about the right size without, you know, wanting to go any bigger to make the lens larger or smaller, because then it's going to start getting a little bit more tricky. So I think they've pretty much nailed that, to be honest. Otherwise, this is not going to be the smallest Micro Four Thirds lens in your kit bag, but it's definitely not prohibitively heavy. I don't think it's too big, to be honest. Like I say, it's an internal zoom as well, so I think that's quite nice. Of course, it's dust and splash resistant, which is probably helped by the fact that it's an internal zoom as well. And ultimately, it does exactly what you would want it to do in terms of video and photo shooting. It gives you a very nice, versatile focal range to use, a good balance on something like the G9, and it offers you really good images as well. Now, if you want to see more of this lens, there's a link in the description to go and check it out. Of course, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe. That really helps us out. I will, of course, see you in the next video. And as always, thanks for watching.